what's happening all over the country. As mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters start to hear about fracking, we're compelled to do something. We're compelled to get involved. And we need to get involved. We need the power of the people to stand shoulder to shoulder and say no to this industry. I've done everything in my power through the democratic process, but I found myself in this position and I refuse to back down for the sake of all our children. The more I learn, the more it makes me want to fight, and we can win this. Already, delivery companies have pulled out, not wanting to be associated with this dirty industry. Share prices have hit the floor, and more people are waking up to the corruption and lies. We're supposed to have faith in the different agencies to look after and protect our environment. However, one lack of total competence is from the Environment Agency. Egdon Resources are wanting to acid frack at Bristol near Scunthorpe. The Environment Agency gave them a permit, but the majority of the information was incorrect. The membrane was not fit for purpose and had been eaten away by the local rabbit population. Then there are the watering monitoring boreholes, which is uphill to the well. Plus many more problems, all noted by an astute member of the public during an appeal site visit. The scary part of this is that nobody at the EA had checked and freely gave the permit. After many appeals, Egdon should have restored the site by the end of April. But instead of doing this, they applied again for the planning and used the same permit from the Environment Agency. This fight is to be continued. Over in Sleepy Biscuithorpe and North Kelsey, Egdon have been allowed to discharge fluids into the crystal clear chalk stream. I often have to pinch myself to see if this is just a tragic nightmare. We should have faith in our regulators to oversee, but the reality is this does not happen. We keep getting told gold standards, yet I'm yet to see this. It scares the hell out of me to think that this and much more would be overlooked if it weren't for the amazing people constantly checking. Just like the fabulous work that's just been done over at PNR. All the people tirelessly working and monitoring to make sure these companies take the responsibility seriously and also keeping them very much on their toes. And with the unjust prison sentences handed out to the three utterly selfless protectors a few weeks ago, we realise we aren't the lion, but we are the many, and we can make a huge noise. This is the biggest threat we as communities in pedal licence areas have had in our lifetime. iGas, who have got 2 sites local to me, one at Tinker Lane and one at Mizzen, have never fracked one well. We're about to be guinea pigs, and I am not about to roll over and allow this to happen. Don't look back and wish I say I tried. Look back and be proud you got out of your homes and made a difference. This is our home, not the fracking company's science lab, and let's keep it that way. Thank you, Julie Fields. Yay! Don't frack, oh, don't frack this country on land or sea. Don't frack, don't frack, don't frack. And neighbours are chosen to ban this. Well done. Their wisdom is from overseas, from America's fracking disasters, and the farmers all down on their knees. The last one. Don't frack, oh don't frack this country on land or sea. Don't frack, don't frack in this place, keep it clean.
To Marsh Lane. It started a year ago. It started early. I got a text message from David Burley. The news they said was quite drastic. They'd frack our village so they could make plastic. Now we were frightened. We were quite scared. We're only a village. We weren't prepared. So we went to the pub, and though it was shitty, from out of the chaos we formed a committee. We got a brand. It said no fracking way, although Rob Murphy said no EIA. and we learned about rules and planning and stuff. These were big buggers, the fight would be tough. And we organised meetings, there's so much to do, and we met lots of good people, people like you. As we marched and we wrote and we talked and we shouted, their wealth and power began to be doubted. Soon Pickering, Unios and all of that crew were learning something we already knew. And then it gets a bit sweary, so I won't go to that, but what we've learned as a community is that when you stand up to bullies, you get strength and your community comes behind us. You know, and what started off was like, you know, like, oh dear, it's going to happen because the government and they want it. Now people are believing in us, and we're putting the signs up and the banners out, and we're getting the community right behind us. Derbyshire County Council, when it started 2 years ago, like Ineos turned up to them and they go, oh yes, put your well wherever you like. As long as you paint your porter cabins green and turn the lights down, it'll be fine. Now Derbyshire County Council on Thursday, they agreed a 26-page response to the government's plan to make it permitted development. They're on our side now, we've turned them round. Okay? And our MP, when I was on hustings with him in 2015, he was all pro-fracking. Now, he had the first debate in Westminster Hall for 3 years about fracking, because he's opposing this permitted development, this lunacy. And by having that debate, we got Claire Perry up. And did you hear her? I mean, I was inspired because I did a bit of research on her and I found out that she was from Devizes. And that reminded me of an old limerick. I tweaked it. There was an energy minister from Devizes whose lies were of different sizes. Some were so small you'd hardly notice them at all, and others so big they'd win prizes. I don't know, we did a fracking farmhouse on Claire Perry, and like, this is like, I can do like Jeremy Corbyn now, because I got mailbox. Peter Allen from Kirby Misperton wrote, on reflection, I took comfort from the thought that the supporters of fracking have not advanced at all with the arguments that they use. There must come a point when these half-truths and untruths will register with everyone who listens to them for what they are. It is so worrying that we have weak-minded people such as Perry in positions of power. Well said, Peter Allen from Kirby Misperton. Harthill, right, they want to drill in Harthill. Harthill, they got planning permission, Harthill had taken them to the High Court, they can do a judicial review against them. So they're stopping them there. Woodsets, twice they've been turned down, Woodsets. Right, and then Marsh Lane, okay, they got permission, but we're building an army. We're reaching out to the community, we're going to turn the village out, and they just are not going to get the trucks down, and they are not going to drill at Marsh Lane. Absolutely no way. And I won't read out the poem about Sir Jim. But anyway, thank you very much. They're never going to drill at Marsh Lane. Thank you very much.
Surrounded by 3 sites of special scientific interest. 3. Imagine our shock when the application for exploratory fracking went in. On an old RAF base. This RAF base is just in front of the Jewel in the Crown SSSI site in Nottinghamshire. More of that in a minute. You've all heard of Robin Hood Airport. I'm sure most of you remember RAF Finningley. RAF Finningley used this base as a practice bombing ground. That's right, they flew planes and dropped bombs. And the MOD, the Ministry of Defence, has recorded the fact that there are over tens of thousands of unexploded munitions still on this site. A great big boom, but not the boom certain rich gits are expecting. Now, our farm workers that live in the village, They regularly get some of these unexploded munitions stuck on the prongs on their tractors. Everybody runs and the bomb squad comes in. One site visit involving Notts County Council workers and planning committee, they had to vacate the site because a strange ticking was heard. This is exactly where they are planning to drill. This is exactly where they are right now constructing 2 well pads. And they're really far ahead with that. The spud rig is up and we are getting really frightened. Mizzen Triple SI, Mizzen Car, I've already said, is the jewel in the crown of Notts Wildlife Trust. It's got bats and rare bats. It's got newts, you know, the great crested ones. All 5 native species of owl have been sighted on this Triple SI. That is unusual. Perhaps more importantly, the long-eared owl, which is an endangered species, has been nesting there successfully and breeding there successfully for the last 10 years. The turtle doves, we used to see them everywhere. There are now, shockingly, just 2 breeding pairs left in Nottinghamshire. 4 turtle doves. Guess where 1 pair of turtle doves are breeding? That's right, on our Triple SI site, 125 metres from the nearest well. I find this disgraceful. I find it sickening, and I'm doing everything I can to stop it.
We know it is contributing to climate change. We know this country is too small, too populated for fracking to ever be safe. But we also believe that gas and fossil fuels need to stay in the ground. And that we urgently need to invest in onshore and offshore wind, in solar, in tidal, all of which has been cut by this reckless Conservative government. Thousands of businesses going under because of cuts to solar. The onshore wind industry crippled because of a neglectful government. Yet we continue to subsidise the oil and gas industries which are killing our planet and handing over to fracking companies the rights to drill under our land, our homes, our communities, our national parks. And as we speak, the Tories are attempting to weaken our rights even further, to give the failing fracking industry ultimate power over local people. It wants to change the rules so that fracking companies can drill wherever they like without having to obtain planning permission. These proposals would allow drilling to be classified as permitted development, a category normally designed for putting up a garden shed.
Don't criminalise protest. We are not criminals. Protecting the earth is not a crime.
So, my name is Deborah Gibson and I live in Harthill. We've held our videos for over a year now. This was through the Rotherham Planning Committee. It was through the undemocratic farce that is the Planning Inspector at Public Inquiry. And we're still holding them off with loads and loads and loads of support and financial help. If you want to help us, just look for our GoFundMe page, Harthill Against Fracking GoFundMe page. We're still holding them off with our own legal process. They can't start until we finish this process. You are the anti-fracking community. You know the one that Claire Perry talked about, the travelling circus? You are the ones who've got passion, commitment, and we will win. will put an end to fracking. Let me tell you a little bit about Harthill. It's a small village on the edge of South Yorkshire, and I mean when I say on the edge of South Yorkshire, in a 10-minute drive we can do all three of INEOS's proposed sites: Harthill, Marsh Lane and Woodsets. Add an extra half an hour to that drive and we can visit the iGas sites in North Nottinghamshire, at Misson Springs and at Tinker Lane. At every single one of those sites, there are people with commitment putting an end to those money-grabbing, filthy profiteers who are trying to filth up our villages. I'm really proud actually to be living in Harthill because it's a border village, and we all know what border places are like, don't we? They are wild. So even though this is a single issue campaign and it's to put an end to fracking everywhere, it can't be fought in isolation. So we're using every single community resource we possibly can. Harthill has had to make links with other villages under threat in our region. Our region has had to make links with other anti-fracking campaigns in the rest of the country. And this country is making links with worldwide anti-fracking and anti-fossil fuel organisations and campaigns, absolutely worldwide. So we are not in isolation, we are working together.
Despite industrial claims to the contrary, there is no desperate need for the extraction of oil or gas for these locations to bolster the long-term security of supply of these resources. And sums it up, it is pure greed over the will of the people. So I'm pleased to see that kind of statement there, that kind of campaign happening. And the Unite's toolkit also draws attention to something else we've heard about today, and what happens to in the future if fracking sites, after they've stopped being useful. In the US, they've become long-term storage for toxic chemicals, rusting abandoned equipment. And the report says, the toolkit says, Unite believes the development of such sites is far from sustainable and puts at risk the health and well-being of residents, who may well be our members as well. So today I bring solidarity from Britain's largest trade union, Unite, which is committed to helping you stop fracking. And you can find this wonderful anti-fracking toolkit on the Sheffield Climate Alliance website. Thank you.
Can I echo Jenny's points about jobs? Because trade unions are about jobs, they're about defending their members' jobs. And one of the great lies of the frackers, of INEOS, of Cuadrilla, the other fracking companies, is that their investment will bring jobs to our communities. And it's a complete and utter lie. Those of us who are campaigning in North East Derbyshire around Eckington, we had a meeting with Tom Pickering of INEOS in the big community hall in Eckington last year. And we wiped the floor with him. He tried to put forward an argument in favour of fracking. Part of that meeting, one of the questions was from the floor to Tom Pickering was, how many jobs have INEOS brought to Marsh Lane and to Eckington? Because at that time they were working already inside that community, carrying out the testing, the seismic testing in that community. And when he was asked that job, how many local jobs has your activity brought in the community? He said, his first answer was, I'm not quite sure. He was asked again and said, not many. And then he was asked again and said, actually none. And that's the truth of it. These frackers are simply there to fill the pockets of their shareholders. They're not interested in jobs. What we need in our communities, in our economy, are green jobs, climate jobs, investment in renewable technology, about how in schools, young children, young people are taking on the arguments about fracking. Young people have seen, they've seen, haven't they, the stuff on television about plastics and pollution. They know about this. When INEOS come into our communities, into our schools, saying they're doing good in our community, that is a lie. What INEOS are trying to do in every school in this country, you may not know this, they've got an initiative called the Daily Mile. They dress it up in terms of a healthy future for our kids, but it's pushing pro-fracking fracking propaganda into every school. And therefore I commend and applaud one of our great unions, the National Union of Teachers, who at the instigation of a man who's not here today, Simon Birch, the executive member for this city, Sheffield, at the National Executive last week, put a position and won that union to a position to campaign in every school in this country against INEOS and their Daily Mile proposals in our primary schools. And that gives a very good example of the sort of things our unions must be doing.
Well, I come from over the border. We come from Sherwood Forest, and I have brought the Sherwood Outlaws with me. 5 years' time, I will be walking through the beautiful and majestic Sherwood Forest, knowing that this ancient forest is safe, that my family, my friends, and the hundreds of people and I had a big part in that. Because we said no. I will look back in pride and reflect upon the life-changing events, the empowerment, the confidence that people gained from this movement, knowing that we worked together, combining our energies, and we made a real difference. I will look back on how people grew, because we said no. I will reminisce about meeting some of the most amazing, inspirational, and dedicated people. How my family and I have made lifelong friendships. The laughter, the tears, the love and fears that we have shared, coming together and being part of making social history. And most important, well, not most importantly, but what I think is amazing is we've brought back a sense of community. Because we said no. We can all look back and know that we have saved our beautiful land for our children, for our grandchildren, and future generations. And what a legacy we will leave. This one I want you to shout really, really loud and proud, because you've all been part of this. Because we said no!
Okay, amazing. Thank you to Red Debs. She's an absolute star. You might...
Hi. So in July 2017, myself and Roscoe, along with many others, went to PNR to help the local community protect their homes and environment from the fracking industry. Together with lots of other campaigners, we successfully blocked a convoy of trucks carrying fracking equipment for 4 days. Yeah. So this kind of peaceful demonstration actually had a huge impact. So for those of you that don't know Roscoe, he is a kind and loving individual. He is relentlessly optimistic, as quoted by his barrister, with a positive outlook on all that comes his way. He is fearless and passionate, and that is why I love him so much. We had no idea that for just sitting on a lorry, a 16-month custodial sentence would be given. It was only when the trial started at the beginning of September did we realise how serious this potentially was. Roscoe prepared so much for the worst case scenario, mainly so that we wouldn't have to pick up the pieces if he did get sent to prison. I honestly didn't think he would get sent to prison, so it was a real shock. Before the sentencing, we spent as much time as we could outside, wild swimming, sleeping outside on clear nights, in between running around frantically trying not to panic and prepare and sort things out. The sentencing, as you can imagine, was so shocking. Communication became virtually impossible for the first 10 days of him being sent down. We got snippets of information through the barrister, but that was it. But now it's a lot easier. I get fairly regular calls from him. In fact, I missed a call when someone was speaking earlier.
So, and I've been to visit him twice. So, an update on how they all are, all three of them. They are really well. They thank everyone for their letters of support. Between all three, they have had hundreds of letters of support from right across the UK to Switzerland, Poland, Portugal, Spain and France. They apologise for not being able to respond as they only get one letter a week to send out. Roscoe has told me that he's been putting up the letters and the pictures on his cell wall using toothpaste. These letters keep them really strong and they are all feeling more loved now than ever. I would just like to say thank you to everyone who's shown and continue to show support in whatever way you can, no matter how big or small, it really helps. An appeal has been moved forward really quickly to Wednesday next week, and I will be going down to the Court of Appeal in London. This is another challenging time to face, which is full of uncertainty. So his message to everyone is this: get involved, don't be put off. We do have an urgent situation on our hands here in the UK and around Sheffield. We can all rise up together to make a shift and a change. We can and we will create a safer, more sustainable future for the next generation if enough of us stand up and take action. Now is not the time for complacency. Now is the time for positive action. Please get involved in whatever way you can. Thank you.
Now, I've got some news for you, okay? We're not fighting fracking. We're beating fracking. Now, my colleague in Frackfish South Yorkshire, Dave Shaw, I think maybe in the mothership over there, we sat down 4 or 5 years ago, I forget now, and we tried to work out what needed to happen in this country to stop fracking. And we came up with a few ideas, and thank goodness things are happening. Ex-President Lyndon B. Johnson once said, it's all about arithmetic, it's all about numbers. Whether it's numbers on the streets or numbers in the House of Commons, it's all about numbers. And we knew we had to somehow get all the parties to be anti-fracking. Is there anyone here from the Green Party? Hey, 5 years ago, the only party in this country against fracking was the Green Party. Well done, you were right. We knew this had to be a grassroots campaign to influence thousands, to inform Middle England, just like they did with the poll tax, to educate councillors, to persuade them, local parties, to persuade them, unions and MPs. It had to become an election issue. We thought it may not be possible. In 2014, the East Midlands Lib Dems passed a motion to oppose fracking. In 2016, the National Lib Dems passed a motion to oppose fracking. In 2016, the Labour Conference announced they would ban fracking. It's coming, it's happening. The SNP are against fracking. Plaid Cymru, is that right, in Wales? They're against fracking. Sinn Féin are against fracking. Everybody except the DUP and the Conservative Party in Parliament are against fracking. But look what's happening. We're getting Conservative councillors now against fracking. We're now getting some Conservative MPs against fracking. It's amazing. I want to just divert briefly and talk about Rotherham Council, where I come from. They have passed a motion to oppose fracking on council land, and they are the only council in the UK to oppose 3 fracking applications, or shell gas applications, here in South Yorkshire. Well done, Rotherham Council. I was at Doncaster Council meeting a few weeks ago. That was as dull as ditch water, but there you go. Dave Shaw had a motion to oppose fracking or shell gas fracking in the Doncaster Borough, and also to oppose the government's plans for permitted development and all the other stuff, to change all the planning rules on shell gas. And in that council, in that meeting, not one councillor opposed Dave's motion. Several councillors stood up and said they had this is Labour and Tory, they'd never known any issue to have such cross-party agreement in their memory in that council. It was remarkable. We are now getting cross-party agreements at local level, at grassroots. And then we have Marsh Lane, where the Tory-controlled council opposed shale gas at Marsh Lane. There is no bigger threat to us than climate change. The air we breathe doesn't recognise boundaries, either county or constituency or country boundaries. You cannot be a NIMBY on climate change. So I'm going to get rid of NIMBYs. We're going to have a new word now. We're all going to be NOMPs. NOMPs, okay? We are all NOMPs. Not on my planet. You're all NOMPs.